bit about Mr. Taubman. Growing up in a Depression-era Detroit, Alfred Taubman began his career in retail at age 12, working at Sim's department store after school near his family's home in Pontiac. After graduating from high school, he enrolled at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, but his freshman year was cut short by World War II and the call to military service. Returning to the University of Michigan on the GI Bill, Mr. Taubman studied art and architecture while creating a number of small on-campus business ventures to cover his expenses. Eager to start his family and career, he proposed to his college sweetheart, transferred to night school at Lawrence Tech, which was closer to his home in Detroit, and went to work each day at the Charles N. Agri architectural firm. In 1950, recognizing the explosive growth of the middle class in post-war America, he decided to start a retail real estate development company. His merchandising instincts and his ability to assess and overcome threshold resistance, a phrase he coined to describe the psychological and physical barriers that keep the shopper from entering a store, guided the Taubman Company's planning and design over the next half-century of what are to this day the most productive retail properties in the nation. As his shopping center business flourished across the country, Mr. Taubman served as the director of Manufacturers Bank of Detroit, Chase Manhattan Bank of New York, United Brands, R.H. Macy Company, Getty Oil Company. He broadened his personal investment interest in 1970s and 80s, the historic acquisition of California's Irvine Ranch, revitalizing the A&W restaurant franchise, ownership of a professional football team, stewardship of the Woodward and Lothrop and John Wanamaker department store chains, and the dramatic repositioning of the venerable international auction house of Sotheby's brought Mr. Taubman new levels of public recognition and success, along with controversy and challenge. Today, Mr. Taubman directs most of his attention and resources to civic and philanthropic initiatives. He is president of the City of Detroit Arts Commission, chairman emeritus of the Archives of American Art and the Smithsonian Institution, and a member of the National Board of the Smithsonian Associates. He's a founding member of Detroit Renaissance Incorporated and a governor of the Urban Land Institute Foundation. Mr. Taubman was the founding chairman and holds the title of chairman emeritus of the advisory board of the University of Pennsylvania's Samuel Zell and Robert Laurie Real Estate Center. He's a former chairman of the National Realty Committee in Washington, D.C., and serves on the advisory board of the Brookings Institution. Some honors awarded Mr. Taubman include Urban Land Institute Lifetime Achievement Award, Museum of Arts and Design Visionaries Award, the Detroit Institute of Arts Lifetime Service Award. He's been conferred a number of degrees: Doctor of Laws degree conferred by University of Michigan, Doctor of Business by Eastern Michigan University, Doctor of Architecture conferred by Lawrence Technological University. He holds a Doctor of Education conferred by Michigan State University, Humanities, Northern Michigan University, a Doctor of Fine Arts conferred by College for Creative Studies, and has a Doctor of Public Service conferred by Ferris State University. So I'd like to truly introduce to you Professor and Dr. A. Alfred Taubman.
Thank you very much. Where the hell did he get such a long introduction of that? It's amazing to me, but I've been around a long time. I'm an old man with young ideas, and it's really very kind of you to come here today to listen to a system of business. And I call it a system of business because we were early on in setting up techniques and setting up science in terms of how our business could function. And we were actually a company that set up the rules of the business, the number of cars per 1,000 square feet of retail, and loop systems and all these traffic systems. We did this because we studied the science. And I know that you all appreciate that because you're studying science. And that's our great opportunity in this country. It remains 3,000 universities in America that contribute to this science. And I appreciate your coming, and I will try my best to teach. I've never really taught before, except I think we are all teachers, and I'm going to try to fulfill this as much as I possibly can. Now we'll start. I want to tell you that any questions or things that you'd like to add to this, be free to raise your hand. I'll call on you, and please become part of this discussion. I would appreciate it, and I think we'll all learn from it. This is when I started out. This is in about 1949, 48 or 49. I was working for the O.W. Burke Company, which were a construction company that no longer exists, although I didn't have anything to do with that. That happened a number of years after. That's young me sitting there in the middle, and it's an old picture that somebody picked up somewhere. But it's interesting because we were building this building. I'd been involved in the architectural design and the drawings, the working drawings on this job. And I left that architectural job in spite of my mother-in-law being very upset that I had taken a much lower salary to learn about construction. And although I'd spent my years with my father, who was a contractor, I still came out here to get more experience. And I was field engineer, and I went into the office to get involved in the bidding process and the construction process. That's his joke. This is Jeff Bowes, incidentally, with the Taubman Company. Well, the opportunity for architects to learn about the development process and understand the concept of architecture as an investment. These are things that we're going to discuss. And the second thing, the highest and best use of land will be explored. The first class will focus on the value of land and how architecture can enhance that value. Going on with the different topics of today, the categories of private land use, the highest and best use of land, FAR, a case study, patterns of Detroit development. All right, what are the different uses of private land, and how does use determine value? That's a question. Do I have any brave souls here that want to stand up and give your opinion? I don't have any brave souls here. All right, we will to review the land use from the most basic forms of agriculture to the complex mixed use of developments in our crowded cities. In addition, there's agriculture, mining and exploration, residential and commercial type of buildings. In architectural land, this is going back to the very basics of land use. In architectural land, the use is driven by soil quality, climate, irrigation, and access. These are the main factors involved in evaluating architectural land. To start with, there's grazing. That's not done very much in America, but there's still a lot of it going on, where the best animals come out of land grazing rather than feeding. Feeding is the way 95% of the animals in America are fed. It's direct feeding of hay, and other products. But grazing is still worth $200 to $400 per acre in Colorado and other markets where they still do grazing. Then there's low-grade farming, hay, wheat, and feed corn. Feed corn as against eating corn is corn that's the seed is just thrown on the ground. It's not, they don't irrigate or level or anything, and they use the corn for feed to build up animals. It's an important type of low-grade farming. It's worth from $400 to $600 per acre. These are rentals. So if you use 8% or some compound basis, you come up with the value of purchase. And then there's truck farming. This is the highest form of farming. This is the vegetables, fruit, corn, asparagus. It'll run from $600 to $1,000 rent per acre. We had, as Dean Roy mentioned, I had purchased the Irvine Company, and I ran it for 6 years. We were growing asparagus, finest asparagus in the world there, and the finest Valencia orange. But the asparagus, to start with, it's not a vegetable, it's a flower. And it's part of the iris family. And when it grows up, if you let it grow, it'll flower out, actually. Those little seeds at the top are really, they open up as a flower eventually. And we were growing asparagus 3/4 of an inch in diameter and 12 to 14 inches long. You could eat all of it. It was amazing asparagus. The market for this was all in Paris. We shipped it all to Paris. We set up great crates. You wouldn't tie it together because you'd ruin the stems. So each asparagus stood on its own. And we sold this in those days for $1 a piece, which was amazing. But, of course, the French charged 10, 15, 20 times more, so it wasn't that we had to be sorry for them. But still in all, it was an experience whereby the land rent per acre was probably $4,000 or $6,000 it would evaluate. So these figures are just presentation figures that you can use to evaluate rent. All right, land mines and minerals like oil and gas, particularly type of lease, they're usually land rights leases with shared profits. That's the way they're approached, but it's a type of land use. And I hope we all own a piece of land that somebody taps you on the shoulder someday and says, I think there's oil here. Be interesting. Okay? The main kind of land, residential land, is basically single-family housing, which ends up as 6 units per acre, 4 units per acre generally. And tract housing, of course, is the major type of housing in America or anywhere in the world. And the reason for this is it's community. People, this is the great thing that everybody hopes to own is a home. And it delivers a house economically because the houses are built somewhat the same with different facades and so forth. And the land, the cost of the improvements are usually twice the cost of the land, assuming the land is just land in the suburbs.